my name's Mike. I think I'm all mic'd up here. I haven't tied in front of a lot of cameras or with multiple microphones on very often, so bear with me. But thanks for having me. I'm owner and operator of World Cast Anglers in Victor, Idaho. We have a fly shop and domestic outfitting service there, as well as a destination travel business. And Bill and Dave graciously invited me to come down and tie some bugs and give a presentation about my area and areas where I've traveled. So we'll get into that stuff later. But I brought just the bare necessities of a couple patterns that I fish a lot, that I tie a lot. They're quite utilitarian in value to me, where I can tie a lot of them and fish a lot of them. A lot of them are new twists on old classics, as in a lot of fly tying patterns. My first pattern that I'll show you is, we call it the double D midge, or the double down midge, or the down and dirty midge. So basically the way that I came up with this pattern was, you guys probably know as well as myself that, you know, a lot of shop flies or commercially tied flies are quite large and bulbous, and the thinner the profile of fly that we can create, the more natural the presentation will be. And I like to fish a zebra midge a lot of the times, where I'll fish a brown one, a green one, an olive one, a red one, a black one, you know, all sorts of different colors, because I like the profile, I like the simplicity of it, and I like how it's in a nice sort of complete small package that will sink quickly and will stay in the sink zone in front of the fish's face quite often. In a lot of just normal tungsten beaded zebra midges, whether it's a 14 or a 20, I couldn't get that, where I wanted a zebra midge that I could fish underneath a big dry in the summer, that could get down through big eddy lines and things like that. I fish the South Fork of the Snake a lot. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that river, but we have these huge boils and seam lines and just awesome habitat for all sorts of trout species, but the normal zebra midge just sort of couldn't get it done. So what I did was, this is an Orvis 62 KC or heavy wire scud hook. You could use, I'll tie it on a Tiemco, I think it's a 2399 SP, the Arrow Point Super Point hook. That one can be quite sticky and stick in a fish's mouth quite well. So what I did is, this is a number 16, and it has a 3/32 copper bead. We like copper, I don't know why, but we run somewhere around like 3,000 guide trips a season out of my fly shop, and so I get to see a lot of flies leave the fly shop in what colors and combinations that guys like. So copper is quite popular in our area. I don't know why. And so simply, I wanted something that would sink faster, stay in the strike zone faster, have a little bit of flash and ability to grab a fish's attention, but not be too standoffish. So I added a 5/64 black tungsten bead behind it, and sort of built it where it'll sit in the back of the countersunk portion. So it's really a simple zebra midge with a double stacked tungsten bead. One is 3/32, one is 5/64. I like the contrasting color because it does add that contrast and segmentation that maybe a midge has. It could be like leg groupings or a thorax or something like that. But 6/0, 8/0, 70 denier, 140 denier thread, either or will work. I usually like the 60, where I can make less wraps and still get the same profile. So I just start my thread, okay, scissors, my waste paper basket there, and I add in a piece of ultra wire, size small, in copper as well. So I just loop that in. And then my flashback that I use is holographic mylar, the Vivus size medium. You could use pearl flashback, you could use whatever. I like the holographic flashback just because It has a lot of depth and contrast to it, and I have a lot of it in my fly tying supplies, so I try to go through it. When you step down to like the size 18 or a 20 in this pattern, I usually shift the front bead to a 5/64 and the back bead to a 1/8 or 1/18. And then I use a size small holographic mylar piece. And so I tie that in. Everything nice and neat. And then I just move the thread back to halfway down the bend of the hook. The thing that you do have to keep in mind with this pattern is you're eating up hook shank length with the second bead. And so I take the thread further down the bend to make up for that hook shank length by losing that with the second bead. And then I'll walk my thread back up to the second bead. I pull my holographic tinsel mylar in red over the top in a traditional flashback format. And I make one pinch wrap to get it seated. And then I can make sure that I've got the mylar directly on the back of the fly instead of it folding over. So once I get that seated, I'll make one or two other securing wraps. I'll trim the excess. And then I go in with my rib, and however you want to space these is up to you. I like 4 or 5, just because I think that it still allows you enough space in between the wire rib and the holographic mylar to give it that little glint. I think a lot of the times, like, fish don't necessarily, you know, if you're not fishing like the ranch or something like that on the Henry's Fork, they don't have a lot of time to see something, especially on the South Fork of the Snake, where, you know, I try to think of it where they don't have hands, right? Their way of testing something, if you ever watch a fish feeding underwater, is it uses its mouth. It'll grab something, it'll spit it out, it'll grab something, it'll consume it, it'll grab something, spit it out, you know? So I want enough to get its attention to grab it, just to test it, just to see what it is. And I think that holographic mylar does the job. So then I just counter wrap my wire rib, and I make sure that I don't apply the pressure of my counter wrap until my wire is on the downward angle. If I start applying it here, it'll start to push that holographic mylar over. So I make a loose wrap on the back here, and then I'll tighten it. And a loose wrap, and then I tighten it. A loose wrap, and then I tighten it. A loose wrap, tighten, one final wrap. I secure my wire. I trim it. I usually take my fingernail or my whip finish tool with a blunt edge and push the wire down so it's not protruding up. Give it a couple sort of finishing wraps. Whip finish, and you're done. So, super simple, super utilitarian, tie it in a bunch of different colors, tie it in a bunch of different sizes. It does the job. You know, we fish and eat midges all times a year. We fish it all times a year. I even will tie it like in a 10 or a 12 on a small, like, Gamakatsu octopus hook or something like that with a big bead for a chronometer, a real stout hook for fishing, you know, still waters and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my double D Midge. If anybody has any questions. Yeah, pretty simple, but it works. can fill your box with it pretty fast, right? You're not sitting there tying like 3 a night. You can tie like a dozen and lose them with reckless abandon, which makes you feel a little bit better about it.
Click right there. 4. 6.